So in today's video, we are going to be breaking down the Kansas City Chiefs 2022-2023 schedule. Now, before we get into the video, please consider liking and subscribing, and let's jump right into this. So the schedule is finally here. This is probably one of the more exciting times of the year, so we are really excited to jump into this Chiefs schedule. Now, this video could end up being 2 hours long, so I'm not going to spend too much time on any of these games. I'm just going to hit a few quick points about each of these games, just some quick interesting things I see about the opponents that the Chiefs have this year. Now, if we're looking just broadly at the Chiefs schedule, the first 8 games of the Chiefs season are against opponents with winning records from last year, so it's a grueling start to the schedule. So they play 7 games, then they have a bye, and then they come back and play another team with a winning record. Their first game against the team that had a losing record last year doesn't come until week 10, so they have an absolute grueling schedule, but they're also one of 12 teams to have 5 primetime games. And I know technically that the Chiefs are playing 4 teams that had losing records last year, but if we're looking at the Broncos and them adding Russell Wilson, I kind of throw that out because they're obviously a completely different team. So really the Jaguars, Texans, and Seahawks are the only guys that the Chiefs play that really had losing records last season. Because like I said, the Broncos, so much better. So let's start off with week 1. Week 1, the Chiefs go to Arizona. This is a very interesting matchup for many of reasons. You have Patrick Mahomes. He's facing off against his former college coach and Cliff Kingsbury. We also get to see Patrick Mahomes versus Kyler Murray, so that's going to be a very fun matchup to watch. In this game, the Cardinals will be without DeAndre Hopkins for this game because he was suspended for the first 6 games because of PED use, so we won't see him in that game. But this is a great test for the Chiefs coming out of the gate. The Cardinals have a fairly solid offense. Now, it's week 1, so we're not going to be able to fully judge the Chiefs and how the offense is gelling, but it's a good test. The Cardinals have a fairly solid pass defense, so we're going to really see how guys like Juju, MVS, McCole Hardman, Travis Kelce, Sky Moore, maybe Justin Ross, see how those guys are gelling, fitting into the offense. So I really like this test week 1. It'll be the first test without Tyreek Hill, but I think it's also a good test for the young defense that they just drafted. This is a brand new defense, basically, the Chiefs are going to be rolling out week 1, so I really like this matchup. Kyler Murray, the playmaking ability of Kyler Murray is going to give the defense some trouble, so I really like this matchup. This is a good test right out of the gate for the Chiefs, and I really like this week 1 matchup. Then week 2, we are home against the Chargers. It's the first Thursday night football game on Amazon Prime ever, so this is going to be an absolutely insane game. The last time these two played on Thursday night football, Chiefs won in overtime with a Travis Kelce walk-off touchdown. This is going to be a really good matchup very early on for both of these teams because you're going to see the Chargers defense, see if their defense has improved from last year. They added Khalil Mack, JC Jackson. That's going to be kind of interesting to watch the Chargers, see how their defense is doing. It's going to be early, like I said, but it's going to be a very good matchup early on for that Chargers defense. And it's also going to see how those wide receivers are going to be performing against a top tier corner like JC Jackson. So overall, this first matchup against the Chargers on Thursday night football week 2, it's going to be a gauntlet. It's going to be absolutely brutal, but it's going to be a very good game. And I really like the Chiefs' chances in this game. I really do. It's early on in the season. So really, we're not going to really know fully until later on in the season how these teams are really doing. Then week 3, the Chiefs go to Indianapolis, face the Colts. This game, we get to see Matt Ryan and see how he's doing with the Colts after the Colts moved off from Carson Wentz after the disaster that was last year in week 18 where they lost to the Jaguars. So the Colts, they're going to be a very different team. They're going to be a very hungry team. I feel like Matt Ryan, he knows the situation. He knows that this is going to be a tough game for the Colts to come and to play the Chiefs. It's going to be a tough game for them, obviously. So Matt Ryan, he knows the story about how the season ended for the Colts last year. So he has that in the back of his brain, in the back of his head to see what's going on. But the Colts, they have a fantastic defense. They added Stephon Gilmore. They have Darius Leonard, DeForest Buckner. So the defense-wise, it's going to be another tough matchup, I think, for the Chiefs. On offense, I think they're going to face another really, really good defense. But I think the real test in this game is Jonathan Taylor. I think this is going to be the first real test of the new defense that is built when it comes to the run game because Jonathan Taylor, one of the best running backs in the NFL. So that's going to be the most interesting matchup probably for the Chiefs that week, is see if they can lock down Jonathan Taylor and just slow him down, not necessarily lock him down, because Jonathan Taylor's an absolutely elite running back. So that's going to be a very tough matchup, I think, for the Chiefs, but it's a good match for the Chiefs to see how that run defense is performing. Week 4, we go to Tampa Bay, play the the Buccaneers on Sunday Night Football. It's the Super Bowl 55 rematch. It's the rematch of Week 12 of 2020. This game writes itself. Tom Brady, he's back with the Buccaneers. It's Patrick Mahomes versus Tom Brady, Part 6. Tom Brady leads the series 3-2. This is going to be Todd Bowles' first season as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers head coach, so there's a lot of things going on with this game. Patrick Mahomes is going to have an offensive line, unlike last time that he played the Buccaneers, so that's going to be a factor that I think a lot of people are going to be watching when it comes to that game, is to see how the offensive line is performing against this Buccaneers defense. But overall, this game writes itself. It's going to be, I think, an insanely good game on Sunday Night Football, and this is going to be the start of the Chiefs' schedule this year is absolutely brutal. Then Week 5, the Chiefs go from Sunday Night Football to Monday Night Football, and they play the Raiders. Now, the Chiefs, they swept the Raiders last year, outscoring them, just kind of demolishing the Raiders last year, outscored them 89-23. I think this is going to be a huge test for both of these teams. We're going to see if that Davante Adams trade for the Raiders was good enough for them to compete in the division. So I really think that this is a good, solid matchup to see where these two teams stand. It's coming Week 5, so it's going to be kind of early on in the season, but these teams are going to be almost to mid-season form, almost in shape to how their teams are going to perform throughout the season. So it's a little bit earlier in the year, but it's going to be a good matchup to see where both of these teams stand. Now, the Chiefs obviously are going to have to play Davante Adams twice a year, but when they played the Packers last year when Davante Adams was on the team, the Chiefs did a really good job of locking down Davante Adams. He didn't have much of an impact in that game, but that was also with Jordan Love as a quarterback, so I think this is going to be a real test, and to see how Derek Carr actually can perform when he has a weapon like Davante Adams. Moving on to Week 6, we have the Bills coming to Arrowhead. This is a rematch of probably the greatest game of all time, the Chiefs at Bills in the AFC divisional matchup from last year. This game probably should have been on prime time. I don't know how they didn't do that. Like, they missed a golden opportunity to put this on Sunday Night Football or something. You could take away a Chiefs and Raiders Monday Night Football game from the week prior, move this one to a primetime game, but hey, that's just my opinion. This game should be on prime time, but obviously there's a lot going on with this game. You have the 13 seconds by the Chiefs from last year. You have Josh Allen playing unbelievable football. You're going to get Mahomes versus Josh Allen again, a matchup that I think the NFL wants to put on every single year, and I do not blame them because this is a money-making matchup, and I think this is going to be another test for the Chiefs secondary, because while they were able to lock down Stephon Diggs last year in the divisional game because he didn't really have much of a factor, they let Gabriel Davis go wild, scoring 4 touchdowns. So I think this is a good test for those young secondary players and this new defense. Brian Cook, Justin Reed, Juan Thornhill, Trent McDuffie, L'Jarius Sneed, Rashad Fenton. It's going to be a good matchup for them to see if the secondary improved, because obviously the secondary could not stop Gabriel Davis to save their lives last year. Obviously, it's a whole new secondary, basically a lot of different guys there, but I think it's going to be a good matchup, see if they can lock down Stephon Diggs and see if they can limit the damage done by Gabriel Davis. But all in all, it's Patrick Mahomes versus Josh Allen again. Obviously, I can't wait to see this game. Week 7 against the 49ers, we go to San Francisco, and we have a rematch of Super Bowl 54. This matchup is kind of curious just for me because I don't know who's going to be the starting quarterback. Nobody does. So is it going to be Jimmy Garoppolo, Trey Lance? So that's an interesting little nugget to this game because we really don't know who the Chiefs are going to be playing against at quarterback. So we really don't know that, but it's going to be, again, another test for the defense because they're going to be playing the Kyle Shanahan and his tricky offense. So that's going to be a very intriguing matchup. And then the Chiefs get to play against Charvarius Ward, who just went to the 49ers. So again, another matchup that we're kind of interested to see, how the Chiefs perform when they're playing against Charvarius Ward, because he was very good for the Chiefs last year. But I hope this time we can just burn him. That'd be really fun. Week 8, we finally get a bye after the absolutely grueling start. I think the bye, honestly, I know it's a little bit earlier in the season than usual, but I think this is a perfect time for it. Good time to reset after the grueling start to the schedule. So week 8, the Chiefs get a bye. Then week 9, they play the Titans on Sunday Night Football. The Titans beat the Chiefs last year 27-3, so that was probably Mahomes' worst game of his career, probably one of the worst Chiefs games that they've had in a very long time. That was a brutal loss for the Chiefs. So the Chiefs are going to have a chip on their shoulder. They're going to want to prove that last year was just a fluke. It was an anomaly. So they're going to want to get that off their shoulders. That's something that they just want to blow off in the past. Obviously, they don't want to lose that badly again. So they're going to have, like I said, that chip on their shoulder from last year. Now, the Titans, they're going to be without A.J. Brown. They traded him to the Eagles. So it's going to be really interesting to see how Treylon Burks fits in that offense. Amazing running back, Derrick Henry. Now, in the 2020 AFC Championship game, the 2019-2020 season, they locked down Derrick Henry to only 7 yards in the second half of that game. So I really am interested to see if the defense can do that again. Then week 10, the Chiefs are playing the Jaguars. It's going to be Trevor Lawrence versus Patrick Mahomes. So two really good quarterbacks. We're going to see really how the development of Trevor Lawrence is going. But I think this is really the Chiefs' first easy game of the season. I hope they don't see this as a trap game. They cannot afford this to be a trap game, because a loss here, if they're off to a hot start, this could be the completely swing of their season if they end up losing to the Jaguars in week 10. But the Chiefs, they're playing against their former offensive coordinator, Doug Peterson. But like I said, first easy game of the year, but I don't want it to be a trap game, because the Jaguars, I think they've made impressive moves this offseason. So they're a team that I wouldn't look over. Look what they did last year to end the season. So the Jaguars, week 10, hopefully it's not a trap game, but we get to see Patrick Mahomes versus Trevor Lawrence. Then we get to play at the Chargers, week 11. The Chiefs and the Chargers, just a quick note, split the series last year. Brandon Staley was extremely aggressive in the first matchup last year, going for it on fourth down, kind of winning them the game. So I expect more from Brandon Staley, just being the aggressive head coach that he is. I don't see them getting away from that. Now, it is a bit shaky at times when the Chargers do that, because sometimes going for it on fourth down isn't necessarily a good idea, and I always think that it's kind of much when teams constantly go for it on fourth down. But week 11, playing the Chargers, should be a very interesting matchup at that time of the year. Then we're on to week 12, and the Chiefs play the Rams. Now, the Rams, obviously Super Bowl champions from last year. This is going to be a rematch of that amazing Monday Night Football game from a couple years ago when the Chiefs lost to the Rams 54-51, one of the greatest games I have ever seen. But they're going to play against the Super Bowl champions, Patrick Mahomes versus Matthew Stafford. Should be an absolutely electric game, should be just as good. But the Chiefs have a tall task. I think this is going to be a really good test for that young secondary. Again, defending Cooper Kupp, Allen Robinson, Van Jefferson. So defensively, the Chiefs are going to have a tough challenge. And then offensively, if they're going to have to stop Bobby Wagner, Aaron Donald. And if they can stop them, they have a really good chance of winning this game. But the Rams, loaded with talent. So this should be an absolutely insane game. And the Rams don't have Jared Goff this time. So that's going to be another nugget on this game. Is Matthew Stafford obviously better than Jared Goff? So this game is going to be very interesting. I hope it's high scoring. And I hope this has potential to be a game of the year, because you know what Andy Reid and Sean McVay can do when they play up against each other. They did it a few years ago. So this game could be absolutely insane. Then week 13, we go to the Bengals, and we have to play the other Super Bowl participant in back-to-back weeks. You see how grueling the Chiefs schedule is? It just does not get any easier. It's a rematch of the AFC Championship game. The Bengals, they beat the Chiefs twice last year, so kind of like with the Titans, the Chiefs have a chip on their shoulder because of what happened last year. Obviously, if we're looking at the first game of the year, the Chiefs gave up a first down on 3rd and 27, which was kind of the story of that game. Obviously, some bad penalties, but we won't get into that. But 3rd and 27, cannot let that happen again. And then the Chiefs, from the last play of the first half to the entire second half, the Chiefs kind of fell apart in the AFC Championship game. So obviously there's going to be a chip on the shoulder of the guys on the field, especially Patrick Mahomes. And the good thing about the Chiefs is those young guys are going to come in. They know the story of the Chiefs. They know what happened last year. So they're going to fight just as hard. So they kind of know the story. So with that being said, with this game coming at week 13, it's going to be a game with high playoff implications very late in the season. And the Chiefs, they want to kind of get their revenge after losing to the Bengals twice last year. Week 14 is the first matchup against the Broncos. We go to Mile High and we face the Broncos on Sunday Night Football. Patrick Mahomes versus Russell Wilson. This is going to be very exciting because it's going to be late in the season. So we're going to see fully what these two teams are made of defensively. The Broncos always play the Chiefs tough. So defensively, the Broncos, they have the matchup against the Chiefs, but it's also going to be a good chance to see if this different Chiefs offense can do a little bit more than what they usually do against the Broncos defense, because I still think the Broncos have a really good defense. But I think it's going to be a really good test for the defense to face a divisional opponent, another great quarterback in that division, see how they fare against Russell Wilson. So I really like this matchup for the Chiefs later in the season. I actually like this later in the season because we're going to see truly what these two two teams are made of. And the Chiefs beating the Broncos 13 straight times. They haven't beaten the Chiefs since Peyton Manning retired. The Chiefs actually started their win streak by benching Peyton Manning. So very interesting here to see how this game goes. It's Mahomes versus Russell Wilson. Obviously, a lot of big storylines are going to come out of this game. And with it being late in the season, I really like where this game is placed. Then we start off the easiest part of the Chiefs schedule. It starts week 15 when they go to the Texans. This should be a clear victory. I've obviously praised the Texans because I like Davis Mills, but that's about all I like about them. Obviously, Lovie Smith I like about them too. But the Texans, they're not a good football team. So week 15, this should be a surefire win for the Chiefs, but also can't be another trap game. So they got to avoid the trap games, because in week 16, they could get another game that is considered a trap game. Week 16, the Chiefs play the Seahawks. Now, this is on Saturday, Christmas Eve. So instead of a full Sunday slate on Christmas, they're going to move the games up a week. So they're all going to be on Saturday, week 16. So after, like I said, a gauntlet of a season to start the year, they get back-to-back kind of easy games. Nothing's easy in the NFL, but these are back-to-back easy games. Obviously, the Seahawks don't have Russell Wilson, so this game obviously changed a little bit when the schedule was being made, because when I first saw the opponents, I was like, all right, it's going to be Mahomes versus Russell Wilson in a rematch of that great Sunday Night Football game from a few years ago. But now it looks like the Seahawks are going to be starting Drew Lock, so this game should be in favor of the Chiefs. We've seen Drew Lock plenty of times to know that Drew Lock isn't necessarily the best quarterback in the NFL. He's not that good of a quarterback, to be honest, when he was with the Broncos. So don't want to look over them, because anything can happen in the NFL. But again, it should be another victory for the Chiefs. Then week 17, we're playing the Broncos, this time at home. By this point, both teams should be locked in, and this game could be one of the biggest games of the entire year when it comes to the division, when it comes to the standings for the AFC. So this time of year, very, very tough matchup. So I think this is going to be the most intriguing probably of the two matchups, just because I think this game itself has more on the line than the first one. And because, like I said, by this point, both teams are going to be locked in, and it's going to be very interesting to see both of these teams. Then week 18, the Chiefs go to the Raiders and play them for the final time of the season. And honestly, at this point of the season, when they're playing the Raiders the second time, I hope the Chiefs are resting their starters and getting ready for a playoff run, because the Chiefs, like I said a million times in this video, absolute gauntlet of a schedule. I don't really want a situation like the Chargers where they had last year, where they're going to Las Vegas and they're begging for a tie. So, you know, the AFC is so loaded that could be a possibility this year. Obviously don't want that to happen, and it's going to be a very, very tough game for the Chiefs, but hopefully by that point they're able to rest some starters and this game is kind of meaningless. But that is the Chiefs 2022-2023 schedule breakdown. Give me your thoughts down below of the Chiefs schedule for next season. Which games are you most looking forward to? What do you think is the biggest? What do you think is the toughest stretch of the season? Give me your thoughts down below, and I will see you in the next one.